Hey guys, I heard a rather horrible analogy the other day, but I think it makes a lot of sense. I've never actually tested it and I'm not going to because it's horrible, but how many of you have heard of the analogy of boiling a frog as it relates to stress and tension and generally just change in our lives? If you put, as the analogy goes, if you put a frog in a tub of boiling water, it's going to want to jump out straight away because it's way too hot and it's being burned. But if you put that same frog in cold water and then slowly turn the heat up, it's going to die in there. And the reason for that is it doesn't notice the subtle change that's building up to the point where it's like, actually this is not working for me, too late, I'm going to die. If you're putting it straight into that stimulus, it's obvious. But another way to think about it is with punishment of animals, people, kids, whatever. If we do a subtle little slap on the wrist and then we slowly build it up, a person can go from doing next to nothing crime-wise or something bad, for example, and then a few years later they're doing something horrible because the stimulus has only slightly increased over time. The experience that I notice with my clients and with people that I talk to is I'm not noticing that tension is building until it gets to a certain point where it's either too late and I'm having back issues or anxiety or a major problem, or in the same way I'm not noticing subtle improvements as I'm doing what I'm doing, and so I stop doing it. How many of you have gone to the gym and then you're getting changes physiologically in your body and someone with an expertise would know that you were changing but you're not quite feeling it, so you're just like, oh, it's not working? Or a diet or a mindfulness practice or yoga or something like that. What you need to realize is that tension builds slowly over time, and waiting for symptoms is a recipe for disaster because often symptoms are the last thing that you feel. You don't notice you have cancer until you have symptoms. You don't notice that you have heart disease until you have symptoms. Both of those things can be building for years or months beforehand, and with the example of heart disease, it takes years and years to build up before it's noticeable. So is the problem only there when I feel it, or I see it, or I sense it? No, the problem's building way behind, way in the past, like an iceberg underneath the water. So the same thing when I'm working with a client, we're not focusing on visit to visit or session to session how things are getting better, because that's very arbitrary. You could do nothing this week and feel amazing and do way too much next week and feel horrible. What we're looking at is long term, what's the progression? What are our measures of success and how are we tracking that? Because that's how you make long-term resolution. So if you are going through anxiety, pain, stress, whatever, and you are doing a treatment program or a plan or something like that, you need to trust in the person that you're working with, and you need to stick that out, because only once you stick it out are you actually going to get the outcomes that you're looking for. Even if you feel better after the first few sessions or the first few things you do, that doesn't mean you stop. It's like if I'm overweight and I'm unhealthy and I've got heart disease and I'm eating better foods and I'm seeing a nutritionist or whatever, once my heart disease is not there anymore, or I've lost my weight, does that mean that I stop and I go back to eating like crap? No, because it's going to come back again. So why do people stop doing the things that are supporting their well-being and their health, their stress levels, just because that stress has disappeared? It's the same thing with building tension. Why do we only do something about it when we feel it? Anxiety doesn't just suddenly come on. Anxiety builds over time, just like anything else. You didn't suddenly get back pain. You got it because of building tension, and the last thing you did set it off. So when you are looking at your life and how you're processing stress and what's going on with you, look at the trends. Don't look at the short periods of time, because that'll give you the wrong information. It'll tell you that you're doing amazingly. It'll tell you that you're doing horribly. Neither of them indicate necessarily anything unless you're looking at all of the data, all of the trend. And just stick to what you're doing. Okay? If you are doing yoga or meditation, or you're working with me or whatever it is, just stick it out to then be able to measure the outcome. Otherwise, you can't really make a proper judgment of whether it has or has not worked if you're only looking short term, especially if you've been having issues for a long period of time. If you've had pain for 10 years or anxiety for 10 years, it's not going to take 10 days to disappear. It could take 10 weeks, it could take 10 months. It could take 10 years. You don't know, depending on the damage that's been done. If you've got questions, then post them below this video or send me a message. I'd love to help, and I will see you guys in the next video.